Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. I'm excited to talk about today's topic. It's a very important topic. It's a nonprofit that is helping serving adults with developmental disabilities. I'd like to welcome my guest back to Bottom Line. She's the CEO of JARC, Shaindle Braunstein. Welcome back to Bottom Line.
Thank you, and thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
You know, this is it's such an important topic, talking about serving adults with developmental disabilities. JARC actually started back, I think, in 1969 with some parents who felt like there wasn't services out there, that if they had an adult child now, with developmental disabilities, maybe institutionalizing was the only option. Could you talk us through how JARC got started with those parents?
Absolutely. So right back 1969, that was the only model that we took adults and many times children with developmental disabilities, and we put them in large institutions. And we said, well, if somebody's basic needs are met, they have food, they have shelter, they have clothing, they don't need everything else. They don't need relationships. They don't need community inclusion. They don't need social, right? They don't need employment. And JARC and these families were really at the forefront of the deinstitutionalization movement in the state of Michigan.
And to me, it's just one of those amazing things to see that you start off an organization back then from just some parents saying there's a need out there to an organization now that's really helping, the community in Southeast Michigan and what's happening with that. One of the things that I know is mentioned is the word that you want to make sure a person feels valued. When we hear that and JARC feels that and tries to help people, how do they do that?
So we really focus on making sure that the people that we serve are not simply in the community, but they are part of the community. And that includes, really feeling like they have equal agency and representation. And when we looked back, for example, activities, we would often have people would come in and they would do an activity with our person served, but it would really be helping them to do something. And it creates that dynamic where our person is always feeling like they need to be helped. And when we look at people with disabilities in general, you are dealing with a situation where someone may always feel like they can't access the world unless they have help from others. And for the people that we serve, in a lot of situations, that's true. Cannot drive a vehicle. They need somebody to drive for them. They may not be able to manage their own money and need someone to do that for them. So we looked at what would be possible in terms of activities for both our volunteers and the people that we serve to do something together. And from that, we developed our Hobbies and Hangouts program, which is part of our Making Community Connections. And in Hobbies and Hangouts, we run classes all summer long. Any topic you can imagine, cooking and baking and screen painting and line dancing and pottery, incredible things. We built little topiaries this summer, and those classes are half persons with developmental disabilities and half persons without. They're open to anyone in the community who wants to learn a new skill. And they're learning that new skill alongside, the people that JARC serves, and the camaraderie and the friendships. And I think the relationships that have developed on equal ground as we do something together have really been fantastic.
And, while you're talking through that, I keep thinking of your tagline is care that connects. And I mean, there's just, a perfect thing with all the hobbies, bringing people together like that, getting exposure for people who may not have been around some folks that have developmental disability and vice versa. And just all having fun, maybe line dancing, doing pottery in that. What a great effort and services that JARC is providing. Now, I know also JARC, it kind of provides three kind of different services. I know one is considered kind of the group services, which I believe right now there might be 9 foster care homes. Can you talk a little bit about the group services?
Absolutely. So as part of our portfolio, and our services are not one size fits all because the people that we serve are not one size fits all. So we have, as I say, a continuum, and we might have someone who just needs a couple of hours a week just to help them with a few things, and then they can be independent. on through people who really need our help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and may not be able to feed themselves or bathe themselves. And we are here for everyone in that entire continuum. So in our licensed adult foster care homes, we do provide, again, licensed through the state of Michigan, 24-hour a day, 7 days a week care for persons with developmental disabilities, and are able to provide really all of their needs. So again, that may include people with complex medical challenges, who are wheelchair bound, who have feeding tubes, who are nonverbal, or even who have some element of paralysis or inability to move a portion of their body.
And curious, with those 9 homes and that, how do you determine where a home might be? And then how do you know or kind of fit the right personalities together in those homes?
Right. So we actually are a community mental health agency. So we work very closely with community mental health. And one of the focuses here in the state of Michigan, and JARC's focus, is that everyone should be in what's called the least restrictive setting. So if you can be independent, if you just get 4 hours a day, we want to give you the 4 hours, but we don't want to take away your independence. So there is an assessment that will happen, and that will happen again in tandem with community mental health, to go through and determine what can you do on your own, what can you do with help, what might your goals be, and where do we need to have you to be safe. So the people who are in our licensed homes are truly the people who would not be safe without that 24 hours a day. And then having the ability to serve people in other settings means even if you don't need 24 hours, that doesn't mean that we can't help you and provide the service that you need, again, for you to be as independent as you can possibly be.
And that's amazing, because I know you have the group home services, but you also have what you were saying, kind of a community living program.
Yes.
Where you're maybe helping, you're not doing something for someone, you're helping assist them as they are, which is great, because again, what you're really trying to do is show how they're valued and how you don't want to take away,
Right.
you know, the ability that they can do some things, maybe just not 100% or all the time.
That's exactly it. You never want to remove the decision-making and the agency that people have. And our goal, listen, for any of us, and I joke all the time with my kids, I'm in that middle-aged portion, and my reading glasses are on my desk, and I'm doing a lot of this. Any of us find, right, that our ability to do the things that we used to do is going to decline as we age. So you can imagine, we all want to keep our skills as sharp as possible, right? Our doctors are telling us the older you get, the more weight you should lift and things that you should be careful with. And really the same for our folks. If we're not helping them to sharpen those skills are going to be gone. Right. And that's not going to serve anyone well. So we do, again, want to create that balance.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting that you were just saying now what I was thinking too, as we age. So it's not like, oh gosh, it's only people who have developmental disabilities. It's all of us.
Anyone.
Like you said, if we don't use our brains, if we don't use our body or do something, you know, lifting and things like that, even as we age, you lose that. And again, as you said, I know myself, I don't like to ask for help. Most people don't. So, you know, you really do want to be able to try to do as much as you can yourself, and that goes for anybody, you know.
Yes, it does. And again, the feeling that you get about being a meaningful part of community instead of the person that always needs help. We actually have a few young people who have recently moved into one of our homes, and watching them at some of our first social activities. So JARC participates in large community activities, and we also have our own community. And we have parties and socials and dances and bingo, you name it, we do it. And watching one of these young women come into this room, and before she came, actually, she was very nervous, you know, speaking with our staff member the whole way there. Will people like me? Will I have friends? Will I know anyone? And walking into that room, and this look of glee, and she's dancing, and people are complimenting her, because all of a sudden she's in a room where nobody's saying, well, that's the person who needs help over there, right? She's in a room where everybody says, hey, I need help with a couple of things, and you need help with a couple of things, and that's just fine. And that ability, I think, to meet the world on your own terms is something that a lot of us take for granted.
Right. And it is, anyone walking into a new situation or room like that would feel the same way. And you want to just be seen as a person having fun, so that's just amazing. There is one service, also additional service that JARC provides, which I think is amazing as well. And that's for sometimes the caregivers. And I believe it's a respite care, maybe helping someone, give them a break who's a caregiver for a couple hours for them to go out, maybe grocery shop, maybe just get out and get some fresh air. Could you talk a little bit about the respite care services as well?
Yes. So respite is exactly what you said. This may be for a person with a developmental disability, maybe a child or a young adult who is still living at home. And we talk a lot of times about natural supports. Natural supports are generally our family members who may be providing caregiving, but caregiving is rough. It's hard. There's extensive burnout, especially for a young child. Perhaps you have one child with special needs in your family and you have 3 other children who aren't getting the attention that they need because mom and dad are always focused on the one child who really needs, again, that intense focus. And providing that break for our family caregivers and providing them opportunity, like you said, whether it's to take a walk around the block, go to the grocery store, or spend time with their other children. When you look at the impact of that and you look at potential burnout with family caregivers, much higher instances of depression, of substance abuse, right? You can imagine all the things that go along with that. So being able to provide just that break is a really critical service. And then oftentimes, the people that we're providing respite to when they're in their family homes may be people that, when they're old enough, move into a JARC home.
And what's wonderful is, like you said, everybody needs just a break. And it could be the person. I think also what you mentioned was also allowing maybe a parent to spend more time with the other children in the house, and that, because it's hard, it's a balance, it's a balance for everybody in the family. So it's another wonderful service. There is JARC belongs part of the community mental health system. And what does that mean in more detail, if you're allowed to kind of share what that would mean if somebody hears that?
Absolutely. So JARC is publicly funded. We are actually a provider of the Oakland Community Health Network, which is the entity that here in Oakland County provides not only services to persons with developmental disabilities, but services to persons with chronic and persistent mental illness, with substance abuse issues. There's really a whole slew of services that they provide. And these are provided through the Medicaid plan. So when we talk about Medicaid funds, some of the things that those are funding here in the state of Michigan are the services that are being provided to the people that we serve, who, again, you can imagine, we talk about it a lot of times, the cost of forever, 24 hours a day, is astronomical. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine that people are not coming into this, or parents of a special needs child, with hundreds of thousands of extra dollars or even thousands of extra dollars to pay for these services. So by JARC being a part, again, of that community mental health network and a part of the public funding, we are able to provide those services through the Medicaid line to those who are eligible at no cost.
And as you said, a lot of people walking into the situation don't have that. A lot of people as a whole don't have that kind of money, and I think even, people just looking at maybe the assisted living for even a parent, you run into those same type of really expensive costs, when you need to have that kind of assistance and help. Now, you mentioned funding and government funding. Do you also rely on other monetary donations outside of that to try to help provide these great services?
Absolutely. So we are fortunate in that public funding covers most of the basic needs. And when I talk about basic needs, a staff present in the home to make sure that everyone stays safe. What it doesn't cover, transportation, so that people can get anywhere and everywhere they'd like to be, in, if nothing else, to medical appointments, right? To the dentist, to the doctor, to those types of places. Socialization. We talk about these community events and our classes and things that we do together, and bingo and socials and dances. And holiday meals, right? We're planning Thanksgiving dinner in just a few weeks, not only for all of the people that JARC serves, but imagine the staff who are giving up Thanksgiving dinner with their families. And these are not people who are making tremendous amounts of money. So to be able to provide Thanksgiving dinner for the people that we serve and our staff to sit down and have a meal together, these are all things that we raise money for. There's actually a great story told by the family of a person that we served before he passed away. And his dad used to talk about him as a small child, the little boy in the window, right? He was sitting in the window inside and he was sort of looking out at everyone else and what they got to do and really feeling like, I don't want him to be the person who sits on the inside of the window forever. So we are very grateful for the public funding that we receive. But I think of that and say, that's going to keep that little boy inside the window, right? He's going to have shelter and food and staffing to make sure he keeps safe, but he's not going to go on vacation and he's not going to go to a concert and he's not going to, we're planning a visit for a sensory friendly ballet, the Nutcracker at McCombs Center for the Performing Arts. So all these types of things that we do, we are completely dependent on philanthropy to do all of them. So really important to us.
So it's amazing. And if anybody's watching and wants to help, with monetary donations, that it's just something that's necessary these days to help amazing organizations like JARC. And if somebody wants to donate, do you need other things that they could donate? And of course, volunteer their time?
Right. So time is always huge to us. We have tons of volunteer opportunities. Every program that we do, whether we're playing bingo or having that dance or heading off to the ballet, every single thing that we do requires volunteers. And having people who want to come in and spend time with our folks and be with them and help us serve cider and donuts, really important. If you're the type of person who prefers administrative type things, we have mailings, right? And filing and lots of things that can happen here. So, monetary always appreciated, but time is really just as much appreciated. And if you have an idea, we always say there's room for everyone at our table. And we welcome you here.
Right. And one of the things is there are even job opportunities with JARC as well, correct? I mean, hiring positions sometimes that you need as well. Can you talk to what some of those positions might be like if somebody's watching?
Absolutely. So we are always hiring for direct support professionals. So direct support professionals are on the front line. They are helping us to provide, again, that service we talked about to keep people that we serve safe. We have full-time and part-time for people who work for us full-time. We have outstanding health and dental and vision at very reasonable costs. We care deeply about the people that work for us. We have part-time. We have those respite opportunities. We have opportunities available not only in our homes, but again, with the people who just need a little extra help, who might need some help with their meal planning or maybe balancing their checkbook. So we are always hiring. And again, if you are looking right now, I know it's a strange job market out there, but there are positions available here. We will pay you for all of your training. So really what you need to come to work for us is a desire to help people and a go-to attitude. The rest we can help you with.
That's a great opportunity. You described that so well. If someone's looking out there and wants to help such an amazing organization, and again, there's so many positions, part-time, full-time, and then if someone just wants to donate a few hours a week, they can. Or if they can help also, like you said, with monetary also to help the organization. The individuals that you see come to JARC, how do they normally hear about you?
So generally they'll hear about us again through that community mental health system. They'll be working with a support coordinator for a family that might have been someone who was helping their child to get their IEP, their individualized education plan when they're in school. And then when they start to explore residential services, that's when they're really doing that deep dive and beginning to do their research. We're actually really proud that on our website right now, we have a whole series of educational videos, how to. So a lot of times people find us because they're in the middle of the night, right? They're on Google, how to get my child approved for residential services. And they're finding our videos and watching our video series and then contacting us. Sometimes it might be through a friend or someone who's been to one of our events or watched a video says, oh my gosh, I just met someone from this organization. You have to check this out. So really coming to us from lots of different areas.
Which is amazing. One thing, I know that JARC maybe isn't, and the fit isn't for everyone.
Right.
Can we just spend a few moments like who would qualify and maybe who might not qualify, just so that people kind of have an understanding?
Absolutely. So we are very focused on developmental disabilities and cognitive impairments. So and we are actually a big part of the disability community, and we strongly advocate for everyone with disabilities throughout our state. JARC serves people with developmental disabilities and cognitive impairments. And our special sauce is that the people who are the best fit for us are the people who thrive on being part of a community, because we really focus on doing things together. Again, both as our JARC community, both as the larger community. So if there's someone where that's actually not going to be best for them, there's someone who really needs to maybe be more like a one-on-one by themselves, they're not going to thrive here. And of course, we want to focus on the people who that special sauce is really what brings out the best in them.
And that's wonderful, because like you said, once you start bringing people together and putting them into a living environment with someone else, and I'm kind of curious, and are you able to kind of try to help personalities as well get together, people who have same interests in the house?
Absolutely. And we try to do a little bit of matchmaking even before someone moves in. You can imagine if you're living at home and it's been your home for 20 years and you're very happy there, and then all of a sudden someone who you don't like at all moves in, you're going to be really unhappy in your home. And by the same token, let's say that you're moving into a home for the first time and you love to be social and you love to have people to talk to, and we move you into a home where nobody speaks. You're going to be very unhappy. So we always want to make sure that this is not like college where you go in rooming blind and sometimes it works and sometimes it's a disaster and you're hiding out in the library all semester. So there is a little bit of matchmaking and a little bit of a tryout. We also will never move someone into our homes unless they want to be there. And it may be sometimes, right? And this is part of the agency piece, that maybe a mom or dad are feeling like, oh, this is a wonderful place, and you absolutely want to be there because they're feeling like it's wonderful. But the person is saying, this is not really a good fit for me, and I'm not feeling like I'm going to be happy here. Their opinion matters, and it doesn't just matter as one of. We will never do anything that is against someone's wishes.
And if it so happens that someone goes into a particular house, but at some point doesn't seem to work, would they be able to move to a different house if that's
absolutely
available?
And sometimes we will begin serving someone, and we might be serving them again in our community living setting. And we talked about this, right? As we're getting older and all of us are seeing decline, what you do see within the community of adults with developmental disabilities is you actually see accelerated decline in aging. And there's not a lot of research, because until 10 years ago, adults with developmental disabilities didn't live to be older adults, which is crazy when you look at these statistics. So we are now seeing, right, what does aging look like in this population? And we're seeing a 10 times incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia and other, again, aging related cognitive diseases. So your needs may change as you move down that continuum, and you might not have needed that 24-hour setting when you came to JARC, but now you do. So we're going to make sure that for every stage of your life, there's a place for you to be.
And that's wonderful, because like you said, we all age and we all need, you might start in independent living, then you need assisted, then you might need memory care. So yeah, it's everybody. It's just a natural, progression. Do you see, Shaindle, do you see out in the country other similar JARC organizations? Maybe they're not calling themselves, of course, JARC, but are there other ones, that sister groups out there that, can help and learn from each other?
Absolutely. So we are actually a member of the Oakland Provider Alliance, which is all providers to adults with developmental disabilities, some in a vocational setting, some in a residential setting. We work with other, again, advocacy groups and disability groups across the state. So there are lots of great people who are doing this work. We're just one of. And I think the other thing, a reality, and this is a very strange time when we talk about needs and funding, there are so many more people who need services than there are providers to provide them service right now. So, that's always the biggest thing. Not only, is there JARC and others, we need 30 or 40 or 50 others to come to this table. And of course, in order to get all those people there, funding and wages is always that hot button issue. And I think there is a caregiver crisis within this industry, but that really, there's a caregiver crisis across the state of Michigan and across the country. This is something that we're talking about, not just for our population, but for older adults, for people who want to remain in their own homes and can't find caregivers to come in. So lots of work to be done, but fortunately, lots of good people who are doing the work.
Absolutely. And so recently you did go through a logo change and so on. So why the change now, and what does the future look like for JARC?
So the change, actually, if you looked at our old logo, which made sense at the time, our old logo, and this is our new logo, but our old logo had a house on it. And the reason that our old logo had a house on it is that when JARC started in 1969, we didn't have the level of fair housing law, We didn't have some of the subsidized housing availability that we have today. We didn't have community housing network. So in order for an adult with a developmental disability to not live in an institution, someone had to have a house for them to move into. They couldn't go to an apartment building and say, oh, I want to lease an apartment. And it's amazing when we think about what strides we've made. Well, here we are, We are now 56, almost 57 years past that point, and we do have fair housing. And it is possible for an adult with a disability, any disability, to rent an apartment, to buy a home, for a family to purchase a home, and that person to rent a room. We have Section 8, and we have HUD housing, and we have community housing network here. And we said, people are looking at this house and they're saying, oh, you're a housing agency. When truth be told, we provide services to adults with developmental disabilities so they can live in the house of their choice. It might be an apartment. It might be a condo. It might be one of the homes that we own, but that shouldn't be the only option. So we wanted to put the service provision front and center. As you said, it's that care that connects. That's what we're doing. And obviously, we want to make sure that people have homes. We provide that service in homes, but we also want to highlight that element of choice. You get to choose where you want to live. The housing is secondary. We will serve you where you want to be.
And that makes a lot of sense. As like you said, evolving from when it was back in starting in 69 to where it is now. And JARC is evolving with the times and providing, some amazing, services in that. So thank you for everything that JARC is doing to show how people are valued, how you care and connect people together. And Shaindle, thank you for your time today and everything you've shared with us about JARC and all that. And of course, if people are watching, they maybe could volunteer, donate time, donate money, and or might need services for somebody in their family.
Thank you for having me and letting us get the word out. I appreciate it.
And I want to thank our audience for watching. I hope you found this very helpful if you or someone you know might need these amazing services. So thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm Cindy Kainz.